Hey everyone, welcome back. My name's dustinkreis, and today we are finally going to do it. We are finally going to do the Dragon Quest collection video for, I guess, 2015. It is the 23rd of January 2015, and this is where my Dragon Quest collection sits at right now. It's definitely not as crazy as some of them out there that I've seen. But for me, I'm really proud of this collection. As my collecting has waned over the last couple years, I've still kind of maintained a desire to collect Dragon Quest things. Of course, if you know about Dragon Quest, you know that over in Japan, the game's just fucking legion over there, and the amount of swag and just games in general that you can buy is pretty ridiculous. I like to pick up new pieces for the collection here and there when the price is right. The only real thing that I do want to get for the collection, but it's just like, it's kind of a pipe dream at this moment, is the original MSX copies of Dragon Quest 1 and 2. Of course, if I get those, I will want them boxed and complete and all that jazz. So, yeah, just picking up things kind of as I go, not really doing a lot of major hunting. And really, I just kind of focus on the games. If you want to get into swag and merchandise and things like that, the amount of like figures and just little knickknacks you can buy from Japan is outrageous. Just outrageous, the stuff I've seen. Like, I've seen people have entire shelves of just nothing but slimes, and I'm like, no way for me. But it would be kind of cool to have some of the figures of some of the characters, perhaps. But really, I just want to focus on the games themselves. And Dragon Quest is a series that, for me, it's really one of those series that got me into gaming. Really into gaming. I remember back in the day going to a friend's house, and I've told this story multiple times across multiple videos and podcasts, but I remember, you'd go to a friend's house and they'd have an NES there, and you'd play Mega Man, and you'd play Mario, and you'd play Ninja Turtles, and it was all great. And then one day I just sat down, and my friend it was a person who babysat us, and they had kids too, but he was like 5 years older than me or something. He was sitting there playing this game called Dragon Warrior, because at the time the name had to be changed because of, I believe it was a tabletop RPG called Dragon Quest over here that had the trademark. But he was sitting there playing this game where you kind of explored this world and go in the towns and buy swords. And as a kid, I was always into knights and things like that. I loved like the Sword in the Stone, Excalibur, those types of movies. I was really into knights. I had Lego knights and all that stuff. And this seemed to be just perfect because it emulated how I would go outside and play in the woods, and fight monsters and things like that, Watching the old animated versions of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, you just want to go out and fight monsters. So this game was right up my alley. And I didn't get it until later that year, which it came out in '89. And I didn't get it till either later that year or the next year when they actually sold it in a yard sale. And we would always take stuff down to their house too and put in a yard sale. And they would sell off some of their games. And in fact, I can actually still see, because back in the day, people would always write their names on their cartridges. So I can actually still see the faint outline of Whiteman on their on the cartridge, because back in the day you'd always write your last name on it, because supposedly you would lend your games to other people, and you write it on permanent marker, it would never come off, and you could prove that it was yours. A bunch of like recess fights over whose Nintendo game it actually was settled with that. But it is kind of a cool thing that their name is actually still slightly on there. Collecting purposes, of course, the cartridge is not mint, but that's a piece of history, personal history for me, that the game that I watched get played and got me into this series, I actually own the actual cartridge of that. So it is actually really kind of a cool personal thing for me. So I just picked it up and just fell in love with not only this series, but also just RPGs in general. I remember, pestering my parents to get me Final Fantasy then. And what was another one I played? It might have just been those two. Because, until, like, the other Dragon Quest came out, and then I, procured those. Yeah, I guess it was. And then, like, I got to Legend of Zelda and things like that. But I remember just, like, kind of really getting into these RPGs, and really, once the Super Nintendo came out, and I got, like, Final Fantasy 3 and, a bunch of other stuff on that system, and played, like, Chrono Trigger and things like that, I really never looked back. RPGs became my genre. That's the genre that I love, and it's something about the progression, the feeling. Nowadays, these mechanics are in like every game, so you kind of have that feeling. But back in the day, it was a really kind of a strange feeling to watch these characters get progressively stronger and stronger, and new abilities and things like that, because action games back then were very arcadey. So you would pick up power-ups, but you wouldn't get to keep them in the game, and you wouldn't get to save your game. You'd have a password to kind of start off where you were, but the idea of saving your game and picking it up like it was a novel or a movie, you just take the cassette tape out, because back in the day we had cassettes for movies, and you could just start it right where you left off. There was something really awesome and amazing about that, and we kind of take it for granted nowadays. But back in the day, it felt revolutionary that you could pick up where you left off on these games. So I fell in love with the series, and it's remained my favorite series even to this day, and a lot of that is nostalgia. But Dragon Quest really is built upon nostalgia, where Final Fantasy kind of maybe tickles a nostalgic bone because items are still called potions, and there's a character called Sid, and oh look, there's a Moogle. Well, that reminds me of playing it back in the day. I feel like Dragon Quest, even more than that, really makes you feel those nostalgic feelings, because in all honesty, from Dragon Warrior 1 to Dragon Quest 9, I can't so much say about 10 because it's an online MMO, and I don't know how similar it actually is because I haven't actually got to play it yet. There's really not a lot of difference between Dragon Warrior and Dragon Quest 9, or I should say Dragon Quest 1 and Dragon Quest 9. Some people give this series crap for that. For me, it's like slipping on an old glove, or coming home like on the holidays to family, and there's a real hominess that when you start up a Dragon Quest, it's going to feel a lot like everything you've ever played before. There's just something very relaxing about it and very welcoming for it for me. And I know a lot of people kind of give the series crap because it doesn't do, like, every Final Fantasy reinvents the wheel, it feels like. But Dragon Quest really kind of sticks to its traditional roots. And I actually really like that about the series, that when I get into a new one, I know I'm going to enjoy it. So, anyway, let me take you through the collection. I might stop every now and then to kind of talk about a particular game, but really I don't want this to be like reviews for the games, because that means this video is going to be like 5 hours long and no one will watch it, and I got a lot of shit to get through. So let's go ahead and start with the old NES games. And I don't have the boxes for these. I actually still have the manuals for Dragon Warrior, but the boxes have been lost to... actually, I never had the box for Dragon Warrior 2 or 3 because I bought them used at Funko Land. But I did have the box for Dragon Warrior 4, and during a move, it got thrown out with the box for Final Fantasy 3 and Earthbound and a bunch of other stuff that I really regret nowadays not having. But, when you're a kid and you move, you don't really think about that kind of stuff. So, but anyway, got the cartridge here for Dragon Warrior 1, Dragon Warrior 2, Dragon Warrior 3, and Dragon Warrior 4. And these games, I mean, I've played these games, maybe not Dragon Warrior 2 so much because the game is just kind of ridiculously unbalanced. But back in the NES and even into the Super Nintendo days, I would still throw in these Dragon Warrior games because, of course, we weren't going to get Dragon Quest V and Dragon Quest VI over here because of, I guess it was Enix of America closed down or something. I can't remember exactly the reason. But even into the Super Nintendo days, and even into like the N64 days, I would still throw these games in and play them, and just absolutely, loved them. And it's kind of a weird thing because Dragon Quest nowadays has this very cutesy image to it. But back in the day, I was actually a little scared of these games because the music, which now sounds very symphonic and very lush and beautiful, on an NES chip, it sounds very. The music sounds actually pretty creepy in certain places. I remember in Dragon Quest IV, there's this little cutscene that plays that kind of explains Sorrow's his backstory, and I remember the music that played during that made me feel very weird. It was this very sort of off-key, like just strange music. And I remember at times being kind of creeped out by these games. Of course, now, that's partly because of the NES's palette, the sprites themselves, the inability to really, do what the music was supposed to sound like, on the through the NES chip. A lot of that was the limitations of the system itself that made it really creepy. And nowadays, of course, Dragon Quest kind of has this cutesy image. But I remember being really scared during these games sometimes, like going through these caves and the background music and just, I don't know, this weird sense I had when I was a younger kid. And then what came out next? These came out next. And, looking at Nintendo Power, they'd always have the import section where they talked about Japanese games. And they'd always talk about Dragon Quest V and Dragon Quest VI. And then, oh look, there's these wonderful Super Nintendo remakes of the first 3 games. Of course, we never got those over here, except in Game Boy Color forms. And I remember buying these and replaying these and just reliving old memories. And you would think that I would have finally beat Dragon Warrior 2, because I beat 1, I beat 3, and I beat 4, but it took me a really long time to beat Dragon Warrior 2. And even on this one, which you probably can't see, but this is Dragon Warrior 1 and 2 on a Game Boy cart. These are basically remakes of the Super Nintendo games on the Game Boy Color. And even on this one, I never finished Dragon Warrior 2. There's just something about Dragon Warrior 2 that always kept me away from doing it. And but I did beat Dragon Warrior 1, and I did beat Dragon Warrior 3 again on this thing. And Dragon Warrior 3 is my favorite of the series. There's just something about the vastness of the world and having a party from beginning to end. Now, I still love Dragon Warrior 4, but for some reason, Dragon Warrior 4 never really overtook Dragon Warrior 3 for me. And I don't know why. Maybe it's how the chapter system, while revolutionary for Dragon Quest, it never really felt cohesive for me for some reason. And I really need to go back and maybe replay the DS version, because it's been a while since I've played the DS version. But yeah, it never really overtook Dragon Warrior 3. I keep flipping back between Dragon Warrior and Dragon Quest, and I apologize for that. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of wish we would have got they would have made a Super Nintendo remake of Dragon Quest IV, and I'll show you why in a little bit when we get to the Japanese stuff. But some recent additions to the collection have been from my good friend Steven Stevens, and he sent me a copy of Dragon Warrior Monsters 1 and Dragon Warrior Monsters 2, Kobe's Journey. And I never really got these back in the day because I got Pokemon Yellow and played it for a little bit, and then decided I really didn't like Pokemon-style games. And then when these came out, I heard that these were essentially... I don't know what came out first, these or Pokemon. I don't know which one copied who, you know. But I heard that they were essentially Pokemon-esque type games, and it didn't really interest me, so I never really looked into them. But now I really want to go back and replay these, and I just gotta find the time to do it. I'm really looking forward to trying... Do I have that one? No, I don't have that one yet. The actual copy of it. But I also have a downloaded ROM of Caravan Heart for the Game Boy Advance that's been fan-translated. I want to try that one too. But I'm going to play them in order so they don't get... how do I put it? So I don't get disappointed like playing Caravan Heart then going back and playing the first one. So really looking forward to getting to those sometime. But I can't really talk about Dragon Quest Monsters because I haven't played one yet. Even though I have another one coming up. Still haven't played it. And then there's a sequel to that game that I haven't picked up. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So after Dragon Warrior 4 came out, and then we had these Game Boy games come out, it kind of disappeared for a while. Dragon Quest really just disappeared until this game came out. And this game came out really, really late in the PlayStation's lifespan. This video is sucking already. It came out really late in the lifespan of the PlayStation 1. So much so that this was actually a reason why I got my PS2. Weird, right? And that game is Dragon Warrior 7. And I'm currently replaying this right now. And as it stands, other than 10, this is the only game in the mainline series that I haven't finished. Because this thing is a whopping 100-hour plus game. It's got a job system in it from Dragon Quest 3, and one of the other Dragon Quests that one of the other Dragon Quests that we'll talk about later. And this game is just, it's a beast. It is a massive, massive game. And you would think, like, Final Fantasy IV is 4 discs long. You think that'd be a bigger game than a 2-disc game like this, but there is so much packed into this, and you just spend so much time. If you're like me and you get addicted to the job systems, this is like, heaven for you, because you just, nothing but grinding. And sometimes I do really enjoy an RPG that grinds a lot, and Dragon Quest does grind a lot. But when you talk to people about Dragon Quest, this tends to be some people's least favorite game in the series. And going back and playing it, I can see why. Because even for a PlayStation 1 game, this game is pretty ugly. In terms of RPGs on the PlayStation, it feels very archaic. But, that's kind of the point of Dragon Quest, is to have that old school feel. But, it's just a big, long game that there's long stretches where you just have no story, and it's not as flashy, because I feel like during the PlayStation era, RPGs got really, really flashy, and this is not a flashy RPG at all. It's a very straightforward, for the old school fans. So I can see why this one doesn't catch on as much, especially when the next one came and completely blew it out of the water. And unfortunately, this thing's, gotten a little beat up, because when I first got the game, I wasn't super into collecting, but I do still have the outer box for it, and that is Dragon Quest VIII. And this is perfection. This is absolute perfection, and it's a crime that this hasn't been released as like an HD version. I would prefer it on the Vita, but hell, I'd even take like an HD version on the PS4. That'd be amazing. And it seems like Square Enix is kind of, at least in Japan, they're really good about releasing games. And hopefully over here in the States are getting to understand that people actually want these things. But I don't think it's too crazy to think that you would see this on either the Vita or on the PS4 as an HD version. Because even to this day, just putting in the old PS2, the game is still gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And Steven was playing this on his PC, which was able to like upscale it to HD graphics, and he says it's just mind-blowing how good this game looks. So I really hope that they bring this out over here. But if you're looking for a place to start with Dragon Quest, this is where you want to start, because it's got the amazing visuals that you expect from a PS2 RPG, and that tried and true Dragon Quest gameplay. I guess I should say, historically, Dragon Quest has never really been about the graphics and the flash until this game came out, and people's jaws just kind of dropped. Like, this is what Dragon Quest is now. And it was awesome and amazing, and then they announced that Dragon Quest 9, which I guess I should, before I talk about Dragon Quest 9, I guess I should talk about the ports that they released on the DS for 4, 5, and 6. Finally, we got 5 and 6 in a playable, non-bootleg form. And I was super excited about playing these, because I played them on an emulator on my PC. And my PC one day just shit itself and decided that it was going to erase all my game saves on my emulator. So I lost them, and then I never restarted. But then they announced that these were coming out, so I just stopped worrying about it. But if you're looking for a way to relive the Super Nintendo era, these are the ones you want to get. And I think Dragon Quest V, if I remember correctly, one of these is really expensive nowadays. I can't remember if it's 5 or 4. Or maybe it's all 3, I don't know. These things have a tendency to go crazy. But really fantastic RPGs, and it just really shows how great RPGs are on the go. What was I going to say? Dragon Quest 4 and 5 are now also on iOS and Android, as is 1, 2, and 3, and 8. So there's a lot, if you play games on your mobile phone, that sounded really weird. Anyway, that's a great way to, I guess, play them too. I don't know about these ports because I haven't played them, but the first 3 are really good. But my advice is to get the DS versions, because I think they're the superior way to play it. But it was really looking like we weren't going to get Dragon Quest 6. And then Nintendo decided to bring it out over here, as well as the next game in the series, which was Dragon Quest 9. Kind of an affiliation between the two to do it. And this Dragon Quest 9, okay, we all got 8, and it was flashy, and it was great, and it was wonderful. And then they started announcing 9, and at first it sounded like it was going to be like an action RPG type thing. And I was just like, don't you dare fuck with my Dragon Quest. Bring it out as a traditional RPG. Then it started, more word came out that it was going to be a traditional RPG. What we ended up getting is like Dragon Quest 3 on steroids. And as much as I love Dragon Quest 3, man, this thing was amazing. Awesome job system, really long game. It has like ad hoc multiplayer, like you have to be in the same room with people, not online or anything like that. But they had, like, you could download like treasure missions and all this extra content stuff to do. This game could take you forever to beat. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think they stopped supporting it, but they were releasing like a bunch of maps, like treasure maps that you have to go into these, on the search for these items, this really great loot. And then there was all these like legacy bosses that you could beat, like old, enemies from the older games. I mean, there's just so much that was packed into this, on top of an already great game. It's just amazing, like how good this actually was. And really, if you haven't played Dragon Quest 9, don't be put out by the fact that it's on the DS, because it really is an amazing game. But I remember being like just so jazzed about, the possibility of like Dragon Quest 9 being a Wii game, because it seemed like Dragon Quest was being a very Nintendo-centric series there for a while, and I was like, man, wouldn't that be great for it to be on the Wii? And that only came to fruition in really one game, and that was Dragon Quest Swords, which I actually want to get back to. I started playing it, and then I got distracted playing something else, and I really want to get back to it because I was having a great time. I just put it down to play something else, and then I got really sucked into whatever I was doing. But this is kind of a weird turn-based, like, action slashing game that's actually based on an older Japanese game, which I'll show you a little bit later. But this is one, you know, it's not just a collector's piece, you know, for a Dragon Quest collection. It actually is a really fun, good game, and it's kind of something I would not mind seeing a Dragon Quest Swords 2 on the Wii U. I think that would be something really worthwhile. I don't know if they'll ever do it, but it was an interesting experiment, and I really kind of want to get back to it and play it again. But that was sort of the sole Dragon Quest on the Wii, even though there was like this affiliation between Square Enix and Nintendo on Dragon Quest, it felt like, anyway. But there's also some other DS games that I picked up. Dragon Quest Monsters Joker, another one of those, you know, Pokemon-style games where you collect the monsters and have them fight and stuff like that. I really want to get into this series. I just gotta find the time to do it. And then there's also one that I really want to get to because I've heard just nothing but great things about it. Dragon Quest Heroes Rocket Slime. And this is like a completely different style game. I don't even know how to describe it. you fight in slime tanks, I guess. But really looking forward to eventually one day getting that. But that is part of the American Games collection that I've just now got through. And so yeah, that's all the North American Dragon Quest games I own. There's still Joker 2 I need to pick up. And there's another Dragon Quest Monsters 2. There was 2 versions of it, kind of like Pokemon has, you know, red and blue. I can't remember what the other one was, but it's Kobe's Journey and somebody else's something. I want to say one of the Tulun games came over here, I thought. But I haven't picked that up. Did it come out over here? I can't remember. One of the Tulun's Mystery Dungeons, or Chineko, or however you want to say his name. But anyway, I suppose we should move on and try to speed up a little bit. And I'll get through the Japanese games, which the Japanese games, through peer pressure from friends, through help from friends, the Japanese collection has just gotten massive, and I'm really happy about that. From my good friend Aerodynamish, he was selling off some games, and he sold me the Japanese versions of all the original Famicom games. So there you have Dragon Quest 1, Dragon Quest 2, Dragon Quest 3, and Dragon Quest 4. And I'm really happy to have these. I just think I love these little Famicom boxes. I love the size of the carts and everything. And I have no real idea, you know, what went through their heads when they thought, you know, these NES carts would be a good idea. They wanted to make it look like a VCR so the gaming crash wouldn't affect the Nintendo. But there's something about those little Famicom carts that I just think are amazing. And then for the Super Nintendo collection, I also have Dragon Quest 1 and 2, Dragon Quest 3, 5, 6, and 6, I've actually had 3 copies of this at different times. There's actually another box copy sitting over there on the shelf, and at one time I had a loose copy that I gave out in a contest, but yeah. I remember seeing pictures of this thing in Nintendo Power and just thinking, my god, that game looks gorgeous. And a lot of people don't really like Dragon Quest VI for some reason, but I actually really do. Even though all the character models look like, I mean, you can see them right there on the back, maybe, if that picks up. All the character models just look like Dragon Ball rejects, but, you know, that's probably because Akira Toriyama was just working way too hard at that time. And then I also have... And forgive me if I get the name wrong, because I didn't look it up before I started doing the video. But I believe it's called Terneko's Mystery Dungeon. And it's a roguelike RPG where you have to, you know, explore these dungeons as Terneko. And, or Tulun, as we know him over here. But it's an interesting little piece and kind of an interesting idea for a side game. I don't know... Was this guy really popular over in Japan when Dragon Quest IV came out or something? Because he got a lot of his own games. And not a lot of the other Dragon Quest characters really got their own games. But as far as... Let me see. Let's go into the Game Boy next. I have Dragon Quest Monsters Terry's Wonderland on Game Boy Color here. And I believe I also have a ROM of this on my emulator for my Game Boy. So I can play this one as well. Dragon Quest Monsters 2, Kobe's Journey complete. And a lot of these, I should say, let me remember this. Yeah, I think these two games, pretty sure these two games, Alex Return to Mother Base found for me at Book Off, especially that one because it has the Book Off sticker on it. But I can't remember if he found this one for me or not, or if this came from Aerodynamish. I can't remember. So apologies, but when I did the videos initially talking about these, I of course gave credit. I believe Danny got me this one because he brought me back a bunch of Game Boy Advance Devil May Pie, and that is the original, I think it's the original Rocket Slime on the Game Boy Advance. So, yeah, I don't know. This one's sealed, and I know it's like a reseal, but part of me just does not want to open it and break the seal. Same thing with Terry's Wonderland, because I'm not going to actually play this physical card. I'm going to play the translated version. So I kind of want to just keep them sealed just to keep the boxes nice, because game boxes just seem to deteriorate really badly. I also have a Japanese copy of Dragon Quest VII and a Japanese copy of Dragon Quest IV, and for the PlayStation 1. And this was actually supposed to come out in the States, and then they canceled it. I think because, you know, it was really close to the end of the life cycle of the PlayStation 1. Plus, I don't know if Dragon Quest VII sold as well over here in the States. But I remember being really like, all right, I'll get that and replay it. That'd be amazing. And then nothing. So, in fact, let's see here. We got time, right? If you look on the back of your Dragon Warrior 7 manual, it says coming 2002, Dragon Quest IV. Never came, but, you know. So, then, let's see how we want to do this. We want to move on to the PlayStation 2. Much like the Super Nintendo era, the PlayStation 2 era was kind of Dragon Questless, except for, of course, Dragon Quest VIII. So I do have a Japanese copy of Dragon Quest VIII, but they also did a remake of Dragon Quest V that never came out over here. And the graphics kind of look very similar to Dragon Quest VII and, you know, Dragon Quest IV for the PlayStation. But it's on the PS2. They look a little bit better, but it really kind of sucks that we didn't get this over here because, you know, Square Enix, it's so hard to understand them sometimes because this is like their premiere series, and I feel like if they would actually do some promotion for the series, like it would do really well, because it seemed like during the DS era, Dragon Quest was just going like gangbusters, you know, and somehow they lost that momentum, and then they decided to abandon the series over here. But Dragon Quest V is one of the best ones to play, so, you know, I would say get the DS version, or if you want to play an emulator, play the emulated Super Nintendo version, and because it probably has the best story out of the entire series. It's kind of weird to say Dragon Quest having a great story because it's not really known for its storylines, but still a great game. So then we start getting into the second period of woe, and there's actually some things I'm still missing from this collection. But they announced a little game, a tiny little game, called Dragon Quest X. And we still have not seen this over here, and I have zero hope for Dragon Quest X coming out. It's an MMO. I don't think Square Enix is going to invest in the infrastructure for an MMO unless it has Final Fantasy in the title. But there is also a Wii U version, and I want to get the Wii U version as well for my collection. But it's a real shame. I was really looking forward to this, and I really thought, you know, maybe they would give it a go over here. But they didn't. And I guess I just get to look at the pretty box and wish for what could be. I think you can play it on the PC, if I'm not mistaken, but it's still all in Japanese. I heard rumor of a fan translation of it out there, but I have not seen that, so I can't really, you know, confirm that. And then we had this honkin' monster. And this is the 25th anniversary Wii collection that has Dragon Quest 1, 2, 3, and then the Super Nintendo remakes of 1 and 2 and 3, all on one disc, and a lot of little fun knickknacks and stuff in there. And I remember when this first came out, and a lot of people buying it, and at the time, I wasn't like crazy about buying it, and the price just went through the roof. And then the price kind of settled and then dropped a little bit to a point where I was actually willing to pick this up. And I have to say, it's a very handsome collection. I know this would never come out over here, especially in this kind of lavish, box set. We might have got a disc or something, but yeah, there's no way that this was going to come out over here. But it's much like the Super Mario collection and stuff like that, rehashing old memories. And finally I got to the point where I was like, I just need it for my collection, and picked it up, and really is a handsome piece of, gaming stuff here. I don't really want to pull everything out. And so many people did unboxings of this thing back in the day. But I had to pick this up, even though it kind of got me into a little bit of an eBay war with the seller, because I clicked on their thing to buy it now, and then eBay, like, the website just fucked up, and then it wasn't in my cart for the longest time. So I was like, well, shit. So I went and bought another one from a different seller, and then all of a sudden, like, I got a notification from eBay that I need to pay for the item that it messed up on. So it was a really weird situation. But, yeah, I got through it and only bought one copy. But really a handsome piece. It's kind of a shame we didn't get it over here. And then X Corn Muffin X sent me this. And I guess it's some kind of card battling game. I never heard about it, but it's Dragon Quest Victory Road or something like that. I can't remember the exact title. But this just kind of goes to show you that over in Japan, they just kind of slap Dragon Quest on any game and release it, because it's such a popular series over there, and its popularity is really not matched over here. But he sent me this, and of course it was a very welcome piece to my Dragon Quest collection that I didn't actually know. I didn't know this even existed. So it really goes to show that I really need to do some more investigating, because there's probably a lot of stuff I'm still missing that would be nice to have for the collection. I really need to get a nice display case for all this stuff. And then the Tale of Woe continues. Not only did we not get Dragon Quest X on the Wii or the Wii U or even PC, but over in Japan, they even got Dragon Quest X on the 3DS. What the fuck? This is a lot like Xenoblade being put on the 3DS. I'm just like, how do you even get this on the 3DS? This is one of the games that Danny found for me over in Japan, and he sent to me for my Secret Santa. And this just blew me away when they announced this, because I just have no idea how this would even function on the 3DS. And looking on the pictures on the back, I mean, the graphics still look really good, and I'm sure they're, kind of faked a little bit, but man, just insane. I don't think most of the game is on the cart, if I remember reading correctly. I think a lot of it is you sign into the server and it's actually running off the server, but still, that's crazy, that you can even play the game on the 3DS. And then to round out the Tale of Woe, before we go into sort of the miscellaneous items, this is one, I still think we have a shot at this. I still think we have a chance at getting this over here, and that's Dragon Quest VII on the 3DS. And it's a damn shame, because this game, I'm replaying it on my PS3, on the PS1 disc, of course, and this game needs to be portable. And it's right there, it's just they don't want to translate the huge script of the game, because it is a very long, script-heavy game. But it's a damn shame, because this would be a perfect kind of portable RPG. Because if you're on the bus and you just want to play a little bit, you could just sit there and grind out some, jobs. And it's a damn shame that we're not getting this over here. But there is there's like a new patch that removes the region lock from the 3DS, and I really need to download that, and then I can play this game in Japanese. I could easily play this game in Japanese because I have the guide for it for the old PlayStation 1 game. So really easily play this in Japanese. And if Square Enix is not going to do that, then I guess that's going to be the only course of action left to me. So that is all the Japanese games, except for one. I guess I could throw this in with the games too. I was talking about Dragon Quest Swords, and I haven't actually shown this on the channel yet. I showed it on the Another Gaming Podcast Facebook page when Aerodynamics sent it to me. But he sent me the precursor game to Dragon Quest Swords, which is one of these plug-and-play games where you plug a receiver into your TV and then you have the sword here to do your sword strikes and stuff. And it has a lot of different games on it. Looks like there's a fighting game and some kind of puzzle game, but then there's actually like an actual quest where you explore caves and things like that. And it's a game that sometime this year I do want to plug it in and play it and actually do a game discussion on it because, you know, I don't think a lot of people have talked about it. I think the only people, comes to my mind, the only people, only other person I know that really has it is Ball and Nick. And I don't know if he ever did a video on it. I'm sure some people out there have, but in my limited YouTube watching, I've only seen Ball and Nick have it. But really happy to have this, and big thanks to Aerodynamics for sending it to me. So now we're sort of in the miscellaneous stuff, and of course, you can't talk about Dragon Quest without talking about slimes. And this is actually the little pre-order bonus for pre-ordering the DS version of Dragon Quest VI. They gave you a little slime plushie, so that was really cool. One of the big pieces that I got was actually from Steven Stevens, the Laggy Gamer. When he came to visit me, he brought this for me, and I was just kind of blown away by it. And that's the Dragon Quest X Hori keyboard. And the original plan was I was going to use this while I played, or try to use it while I played Final Fantasy XIV with him. But I never broke it out, and I didn't play Final Fantasy XIV super long to use it anyway. But a great piece of collectability stuff here. You know, got the slimes, you got the staircase on the escape, which is really clever. Just a fantastic little looking keyboard. Really happy to have that. And then these figures, I can't remember, was it a Pepsi promotion or something? I don't remember. But Soft Otaku sent me a bunch of these little monster figures. And I believe they were part of a Pepsi thing, like they go on top of a Pepsi cap or something like that. But they're a nice little addition to have. And I really like this one because I remember fighting this guy and using the fairy flute on him. And, you know, just it brings back a lot of memories, especially this guy too. This guy pissed me off to no end going through Roan in Dragon Quest II. But yeah, fun little figurines that were related to some Pepsi promotion, I'm not sure. That's the thing about Dragon Quest, is there's just all this stuff. Even if you don't want to just collect the games, there's all this other stuff that you can get. Devil May Pie sent me, when he sent me his Secret Santa thing, he also sent me this very heavy metallic slime kind of paperweight thing that I haven't removed from the packaging, and I probably won't. But it was really cool to get that, as well as a DS stylus and screen cleaner wipe, which I, again, won't remove from the packaging, because I'm not really going to use them, so what's the point? Other than maybe getting the wipe out and having it fully... what's the word I want? You know, fully presentable. And he also sent me some of these little bubble stickers, the puffy stickers. You know, they're all metallic, so they're probably reflecting horribly into the camera. So he sent me those, and that was, I mean, it was just, it was such a joy to open that package. Oh my god, I gotta lean off screen for a second here. And then I don't remember exactly where I got this, but I got a Dragon Quest II cloth world map. Someone sent this to me, and I apologize for not remembering who that person is, because it was a really long time ago. And my original idea was to steam it so I get all the creases out of it and then get like a custom frame to put behind it. But this is not going to work. This place right here, this place is going to be just hell for you guys who play the game. The Rhone Plateau. Or I guess it's like Renadark now or something, I don't know. But a really nice thing to have. I'd really like to have a Dragon Quest III one, because that world looks a lot like the normal world. You know, the continents all kind of look the same and stuff. And finally here we have the books, which just some strategy guides and some kind of cool historical pieces. This is actually kind of an interesting thing, just because it was everywhere, and that's a pamphlet for Dragon Quest IX. It was just everywhere. You'd see it at Target, you'd see it at Meijer, you'd see it at GameStop. So I picked up one to keep, and it's got like a lot of cool little artwork and kind of talks about the game and stuff. So that's something, you know, I don't see a lot of companies do anymore. And I don't know, maybe it's just me being an old guy, but I like to pick up like a little pamphlet and look at every now and then. This is the Dragon Quest 25th Anniversary book. It's all in Japanese, but it's got some really cool artwork and screenshots and stuff like that in it. And one of my viewers was kind of telling me about this book and to pick it up, so I did. Really enjoy just kind of looking through this every now and then, and wishing the series was more popular over here. I did not get the bestiary. There's like an encyclopedia for all the monsters in the Dragon Quest universe. Never picked that up. My good buddy Doomwaves Chance sent me this, the Dragon Warrior strategy guide for the first game, and really happy to have this, because it's just kind of a cool piece of, you know, they made everything look very European and epic in there instead of anime-esque, but it's just a very cool piece of history. I think this is the free, this is the free guide you got when you got your free copy from Nintendo Power. So, really happy to have that. I'm really happy he sent that to me. Then I have this old beat up thing. And what this is an old issue of Nintendo Power from 1991. And it was pretty close to being this beat up when I got a hold of it from my friends. But what this has in it, aside from a guide from Ninja Gaiden 3, and there's a lot of actually good games in here. There's the Mega Man for the Game Boy. It has a guide in it for Final Fantasy Legend 2 in there as well. And that's the great thing about Nintendo Power back in the day, is like they do these big strategy sections. But it has this huge thing about Dragon Warrior, and it talks about all the 3 games there. It has a quick tips for Dragon Warrior 2, and then it has a complete walkthrough for Dragon Warrior 3. And this thing, I mean, it was pretty beat up when I got it, but it's been continually beat up over the years because I use it. Whenever I play, especially Dragon Warrior 2, that I'm not completely familiar with, I'll pull that out and make sure I hit all the big moments there. But it's just kind of a cool thing that I kept from my childhood. Of course, if the magazine was in mint condition, it'd probably be worth some money, but it's just worth more to me, because I remember just sitting down and, like, even when I wasn't playing the game, I would just sit there and kind of look at this guide and just kind of, you know, imagine these worlds and stuff. So then we got the rest of the strategy guides, and that's pretty much it. Strategy guide for Dragon Quest IV. Unfortunately, I don't have the one for 5, and that one costs a pretty penny. Maybe one day I'll pick one up. I have the strategy guide for Dragon Quest 6, 7, 8, and finally Dragon Quest 9. And that is really it. That is everything I have Dragon Quest related. Whew. Done talking about it. I'm glad I can finally put all this shit back on the shelves. This video has been kind of a long time coming, because I just, you know, it sucks because this is my favorite series, and Square Enix just is very ambivalent about it over here. They just don't care. They're doing everything on iOS and mobile, and while I really enjoyed Dragon Quest 1 through 3 on my phone, I really want Dragon Quest 7 on the 3DS. I really want a port of Dragon Quest 8 on the Vita. I really want Dragon Quest Heroes that come out over here. I really want Dragon Quest 11 to come out over here. I really hope that they learn the lessons from Bravely Default and see that people want good RPGs over here. You know, Atlas, when it comes to RPGs, Atlas might be one of the best companies at putting out what people want. It seems like they're always releasing games that people want, and Square Enix is just like, I don't know what to do, you know. It's so weird, and it's so hard. You know, one of the people I watch on here is Saigon Cat, and he's a big Dragon Quest fan too. And I share his frustrations with this company, Square Enix. I really wish, like, Square Enix would just give Dragon Quest to Nintendo or to some other company, but they'll never do that because it's a big cash cow for them in, you know, Japan. But I just don't understand why these games cannot come out over here in the West. Why Square Enix can't allow another company to publish them over here, because I'm pretty sure a lot of these companies would just love to publish Dragon Quest games over here. And it's so weird because, like, Atlas puts out all these niche games, but yet Square Enix, one of the most powerful companies supposedly in video games, cannot bring themselves to release this stuff over here. Really, really strange to me. So it's kind of bittersweet being a Dragon Quest fan. It's really kind of bittersweet because on the one hand, I have all these great games to play and all these great games that I've enjoyed, but it feels like the future is kind of bleak. And I really hope that Dragon Quest Heroes, which regardless if they bring it out over here or not, I'm going to import it. And probably do the same with Dragon Quest 11. But I really hope they get Western releases, and I really hope more people pay attention to this series, because it's really easy to dismiss it as sort of this very kiddish RPG, because everyone wants these like gritty and I don't know, these gritty games. And as much as I love Shin Megami Tensei, and I'm really starting to enjoy the series, and as much as I love Final Fantasy and its, you know, over the top epicness, there's just something about the fairy tale esqueness. It's not a word. The fairy tale nature of Dragon Quest that just, I don't know. It's like for some reason it's kind of like the more recent Hobbit movies. They're nice and they're great and they're entertaining, but you know, when it comes to the Hobbit, I always kind of go back to that old animated movie from like the 70s. And I don't know, there's just something about the tried and trueness of Dragon Quest. And yeah, it may not reinvent the wheel every time, but if you like the game, you're going to like every entry in the series. I can't think of a single entry in the series, except maybe Dragon Quest 2, but even then, I still enjoy the game. But it's been fixed on like iOS, but on the Nintendo, it was a very unbalanced game. But yeah, it's bittersweet, because I don't know. If I lived in Japan, it'd be just nothing but sweetness, because that shit just comes out all the time. But living here in the States and being a real fan of the series, it's hard to watch it kind of get mishandled by Square Enix. So, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's a discussion for another time. That is the collection as it stands. Like I said, I would love to get my hands on some of the MSX copies of the games. I think only 1 and 2 were on the MSX. What else was there? There's something else I'm missing. I guess if I want to get really super into it, I can get the DS versions of 4, 5, 6, 9, and the Jokers and stuff like that, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. And there's a bunch of the Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color stuff that I still don't have, but I'm pretty happy with this collection, and need to get a nice display case for it and stuff like that. But until then, it'll just be on that little shelf up in the entertainment center. So, but anyway, guys, that is it for this video. Hopefully I didn't stumble too much. Doing these really long videos, it's kind of hard to sit here cross-legged and, you know, feel my legs falling off from lack of circulation and still sit here and talk. But anyway, that is it. I got a lot of ideas for videos, so there'll be some stuff coming up. Just gotta find the time to do it. but I had the time tonight, so I figured get this out of the way and do it. So if you made it all the way to the end, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.